I'm doing a request for a buddy of mine. Fender, you know who you are. This one is for you. You told me to watch Spawn. Now I'm watching SLC Punk. SLC Punk, Salt Lake City, Utah Punk. It's 1985, and Steve-O, not from Jackass, is that rare animal, a punk rocker in the Mormon stronghold of Salt Lake City, Utah. He just graduated from college with honors, and now his life is a nutty roller coaster ride of rock shows, stealing cars, and beating up rednecks, and non-stop partying with his buddy, Heroin Bob, and his girlfriend. But with the scene getting lame and Steve-O going nowhere fast, he has to put his punk ideals to the test with a choice between no future and Harvard Law School. What's a guy with blue hair supposed to do? Fueled by a classic punk rock soundtrack and hilarious, energetic performances for Matthew Lillard, Scream, She Saw That, Michael Gorgian, Leaving Las Vegas in Hard Rain, and Annabeth Gish, Beautiful Girls in Nixon. SLC Punk is one punk's madcap search for a way to grow up without selling out. That is the $1 million question on Who Wants to Be a Millionaire. How can one grow up without selling out? Can one manage to successfully own a cat named Q and still manage to have a dog at the same time? I don't have a dog. What this movie does, it's punk rock. In the beginning, there are montages of the actors if they would have appeared on punk rock CDs. You know, Ramones, Sex Pistols, Damned, XL, The Exploited, Discharge, and many others. I know a little bit about punk rock. It's never really a genre I've listened to. So, what it is, this movie is two halves, I noticed. One, it is freneticism in the sense of many jump cuts, but that's the point, because punk rock is about forgetting about the complexity and just going towards three chords and the truth. It is pretty much just seeing the different clicks that happen in that style. You have the mods, you have mentions of rednecks. You get to see some new wave, you get to see rockers, heavy metal, etc. So this is kind of just like an encapsulation of all the stuff that was happening in the 80s. And the director, whoever it was, a production of James Marandino, said that this is not autobiographical, but more just people that he knew in his past, just coming in just to create this this motion picture and creating this type of animal, if you will. So this movie, the performance of Matthew Lillard, frenetic, and just being in the first person narrative of like how many people are just being a bunch of posers, and how he and his friend Heroin Bob, who has a fear of needles and ironically is called heroin, makes sense of that. They are the only two punks, so it's like they are trying to find their place in the world. It's like, hey, we beat up rednecks who cause trouble, and you know, we are usually, like most of the time, law-abiding citizens. But when the future of the them going to Harvard comes in, the questions get raised. It's like, here's where the discussion comes in. It goes from the rapid style editing to the kind of talks that just go out in usually like one or two takes, you know. And it feels like the movie loses some of its energy. And that, I was reading online, that is one of the common things that kind of bring it down. Is it's like, yeah, how about you instead of like, you know, two people are talking, it's like, you know, there's like the satire of the punks parents, or I guess were like baby boomers at the time, so we kind of get to see the satire saying like, I didn't sell out, I just sold into the dream or whatever. So you can kind of tell that it's pretty much just picking on everything that was going on there. And so it's pretty much, I guess, paying tribute to the punk scene, but at the same time, kind of raising some questions about, like, is it really, are you really being a punk, or is it just because you dye your hair blue and whatever else you do? Are you really just rebelling, or is it making a fashion statement? Or is being a rebel something that that just happens automatically? Is it like, you don't just make it, it just happens naturally? So, that's the type of movie, that's the type of theme that it deals with. And, the friendship between those two, I feel to be believable. Because, it's like, in order to get into that, it's like, you gotta live the role, and you gotta really own up to the character that you're doing. A method actor, if you will, but not being over the top about it. That's how I feel that this movie is. It's like, it is questioning things. Of course, a couple of scenes are when they're going out of Utah and into Kansas to steal some beer, to go and get some beer, because I think, what was that, Utah is a dry state or something like that. And ultimately, it just comes down to the beliefs, because it's like, you can't, it's like 3% beer versus the a little bit stronger 6% beer, So I found that to be interesting about the style of just to see how Utah is a Mormon state, and there's a whole thing, I don't want to go into that. So it's kind of like the clashing of ideals that go on. So it's like, there is actually a very funny scene where they are trying to get the beer, and it's like discussions about the future. So this movie has a lot of stuff going on. And, it's like, when certain things happen, when it's in the frenetic state, it feels freaking great, funny. Like when they're living in their kind of not that great apartment, it's still funny because it's just the energy that they output. But when it gets into more serious topics, it's like, it kind of just loses its focus, I noticed. So, I don't know. I just felt like when it wasn't being like either satirical or having the punk rock energy, it just felt like they were stalling for time to make this a 97-minute movie. And in my opinion, for what it's worth, it is great, but maybe if they just cut down 7 minutes just to make it 90 minutes, I felt like that this movie would have been, from what I'm giving it, like a 7, it would have been up to like an 8. And that's just me talking. That's just what I think about it. So, really do check out this movie. Only 1 or 2 libraries in Michigan had this out of 400 branches. And a little trivia: Matthew Lillard was going to have his hair bleach blonde, but it kind of damaged his hair. You can look right here. I've got some yellow. That's because of lack of biotin in my hair, but that's irrelevant. So he dyed his hair blue. And he's actually the voice of Shaggy now. Yes, he played Shaggy in the live-action movie. He even got teamed up with, Casey Kasem. And so you could pretty much tell it was destined to take over the realm, because Lillard did the voice of Shaggy, and Kasem did the voice of Shaggy's dad in the 2010 movie or something like that. So, I don't know. Very interesting career. Also played in Shakespearean performances. So, yeah. I don't know. So if you're on a movie that has an intense punk rock vibe, great soundtrack, and kind of pays tribute and kind of at the same time satirizes the punkish way of life, then I recommend that you watch SLC Punk.